everybody's worst fear.
Hugh Glass is a name most of you probably haven't heard, but after this video, I bet he will be a household name. One day while hiking, Hugh Glass wandered away from his fellow hikers and accidentally disturbed a mother bear and her cubs. And we all know you should never want to be in this situation. Hugh knew he was in danger, but there was little to nothing he could do. He stood there in fear as the huge female bear charged at him at full speed. The grizzly bear picked him up with her powerful jaws and began biting and ripping off his flesh, throwing him into the air like a toy. Hugh was severely injured. Most of his flesh on the lower part of his body was completely torn off. His neck was also brutally torn open to the point that a huge hole was made. Hugh was completely covered in blood, but luckily his arms and hands were spared from severe damage. Hugh's fellow hikers then heard his awful screams and they made their way to him. They then found him and the bear and killed the bear. The crew was convinced Hugh was not going to survive his injuries, but despite this, they carried him for 2 days, which slowed the pace of the group. Eventually, they had 2 volunteers wait with Hugh until he died so they could bury him. They then dug his grave and took his equipment, which was a rifle, knife, and other necessities. They then left Hugh and believed he was dead, falsely reporting his death. But despite his injuries, Hugh Glass regained consciousness but found himself abandoned without any equipment and disturbing wounds. He had a broken leg and deep cuts on his back exposing his ribs. Hugh laid there completely alone and mutilated, 200 miles away from the nearest American settlement, which was Fort Kiowa. Hugh Glass then reset his own broken leg and wrapped himself in the bear hide his companions had wrapped him in. He then began crawling to Fort Kiowa, and to prevent gangrene, which is a type of tissue death caused by a lack of blood supply, he allowed maggots to eat the dead infected flesh in his wounds. Hugh Glass crawled south towards the Cheyenne River, where he made a makeshift raft and floated downstream to Fort Kiowa. The journey took him 6 weeks and he survived mostly off berries and roots. The fact that Hugh was brutally attacked by a bear and then left to die is just completely unsettling. The story of Hugh Glass highlights the power of the human body and mind, even when it's exposed to such situations. This is definitely one of the craziest survival stories you will ever hear.